Team, hello, it's me, Streamer. Hope you're doing well today. Welcome back to the channel. This is going to be the Mythic Charm guide. 24 hours after the release of Phase 3, we will have access to the Mythic Charms through Dura's trial. Today, I wanted to give you some guidance on who to, or I should say, what charms to select for the heroes that you will most likely be utilizing in AFK stages. Once again, this will be with a focus of looking at AFK stages. Dream Realm PvP may have different choices, and we, for the final time, are going to focus on AFK stages. Like we normally do for these Mythic Charm guides that I have done in the past, we will break it down class by class, and what I mean by that is your Rogue, Mage, Warrior, etc. Now, before I delve into the Rogue, which is where I'm going to start, I want to give you, or at least remind you, I should say, of this tip that we do all the time. And that is, for any heroes that have been released this season, you can roll the dice and buy Mythic Charms. You will get 3 random ones. There is no guarantee that you're going to get the right set or even a piece of the right set. But if you do, this will help you save so many resources and allow you to then go and invest those resources in another hero and deepen your hero Mythic Charm progression compared to another player who might not roll as well. So just shouting that out, make sure that you don't waste your resources like Gunner, Contus, Solis, Sylvan, these sorts of heroes. At least roll the dice and see what you get before you delve into crafting. Okay, cool. Without further ado, let's jump into Rogue. All right, Rogue. So the primary Rogue heroes that you are going to be looking to craft ASAP is Saida. Obviously, Saida is the mainstay of AFK stages, and she has a very, very straightforward pick. She always goes with the Mythic Blast Charms. Those are hers. The next hero is Faramore. Faramore goes with the Ruthless Charms. And then the last rogue is probably going to be Iron in terms of priority. There is a chance heroes like Athalia or Shadewing appear as a, I guess, more primary need over Iron, but Iron is worth picking up if you have the resources to do so. Now, Iron's charms are a little bit up in the air. Sometimes you can select Energy, sometimes you can select the Cheetah, and even in this phase, you might be able to select Titanic. Now, what you will see or hear throughout this video is some like effectively charm sets that you might never have heard attached to some of these heroes before. And the reason for that is because of the need for attack stat. Attack stat, just to remind you, is critical for Season 6 purely because of our artifacts. I know I beat this every video that I do, but it's really important that you understand the gravity that your damage is amplified by your attack stat. Your artifacts scale off team attack, and if you can select a charm set that increases that stat by a significant portion, you will be able to overcome these damage checks or just AFK stages in general quicker than someone without it. So just reminding you that in some of these cases, you may end up having a normal set, which for Iron could be Cheetah or Energy, and then an attack set, which would be Titanic. So what I would recommend in the scenarios where you are faced with the dilemma of picking an attack set or like a normal set, I would probably opt for the normal set straight away, because often in early AFK stage progression, it isn't that damage is the main issue, it's like survivability and actually being able to overcome the scenario in front of you is the main issue. And that's where your normal charm sets come into very, very handy, okay? So just wanted to like drill that home. Now, with regards to Shadewing and Athalia, if you are going to build these two heroes, for Athalia, I would recommend that you go ahead and you build either the Balanced Charm or you build the Sorcery Charm. It will be one of those two, and once again, it will be down to attack versus like her normal ultimate power and skill power stats. Then outside of her, obviously I said Shadewing. Shadewing to me is fairly locked into Arcane Charms. He normally utilizes those and they have attack on them, so that will be his go-to in my opinion. Okay, cool. So that primarily is Rogue done. I should mention that there is another contender, but I don't think that Derek the Snail comes out until Season 7, so we'll leave Derek for the time being here just in the background. Okay, cool. So next we're going to flow onto Warrior. Mr. Warrior. So the first warrior hero that we need to prioritize is obviously Balren. Balren is the main warrior hero in AFK Journey, in my opinion, and he normally always goes for insight charms. That is because, like you may remember from previous videos, not only does he do really well with skill power, but he deals a lot more damage based on his health pool. So insight gives him that massive HP bonus. So therefore he does a lot more. But if you do need an attack set, then I would also look at balance charms. Balance charms give not only health, but they also give attack power. So I actually think that it's pretty close between insight and balance this phase. Once again, it will be a likely case that you want to craft both, but I would lean on the true tried and tested, which is insight, before picking up balanced. All of these attack sets are untested and unknown, effectively. So if I was to weigh up the options like I did for Iron a second ago, I would always go for the tried and tested, the ones that you know will work before picking up an attack set. So go for insight with Balren first and foremost. Now, the next hero would be either Brutus or Xandrock. Brutus is a hero that you utilize if you don't really have Alna or access to Alna. And if that's the case, once again, for Brutus, you will want to pick up insight charms. It is just a thing that you need to have more health on him, more skill power on him. And I don't believe Brutus offers a attack set. So this is just a really straightforward pickup for him. And then coming to Xandrock, Xandrock has always been an interesting hero. He does, I believe, have access to an attack set, which is the Blast Charm, but that's not very good for him. He also has the Bloodlust Charm, but that's also not very good for him. His primary go-to is either Cheetah or Insight, and I primarily have always gone with Cheetah, so I would recommend that you pick up those first and foremost. Now, two other shout-outs, but we're not going to go into too much detail, you may end up utilizing if you don't have access to all of the prominent Celestial Hypogean heroes. That is Perseus and Laios. Those two heroes do see utilization in some Lightbearer teams or some statue stages, so just maybe keep an eye on your resources if you don't have access to all the Celestial Hypogeans to afford crafting a set on one or both of those heroes. Okay, cool. Warrior is really straightforward. Next up, we're going to move to the tanky tanks. The big lads and women. So this is the tanks. Now, primarily, once again, I think there's really only 3 heroes that I'm going to look at. They are Theodore, Gunnar, and Auna, and there's probably an honorable mention or a shout out to Ulnus, the treeman. Now, we'll start with Auna. Auna is a really interesting hero. In the past, we have always gone for insight charms on Auna. And when I say in the past, we've not had access to her for very long, only realistically at the end of Season 5. However, it looks like she could be a 3-set hero, so like a 3-charm set hero. And it will be down to you which of these you select. There is Insight, there is Cheetah, and there is Acute. Now, once again, Acute, I believe, is an attack power set that you will want to consider for boosting your artifact damage. Not only that, it is Haste. So Haste is actually kind of a good stat for Auna. So that is something to worth shouting out. And the reason why then you look at things like Cheetah is it marries up HP and Haste. So if I was to select one of the 3 to go for straight away, I think the tried and tested is Insight. But Auna is a hero that I think I'd be willing to take a risk on. There aren't that many tanks that we want to craft. Therefore, I would probably go with Acute or Cheetah. And my preference would probably be Acute. I'm a huge fan of Acute charms in general, and you'll see that with with my Kulu options later. But yes, I would pick up Acute. Okay, now the others are Theodore and Gunnar. Gunnar is another, not complicated, but interesting hero. He has 3 sets that you can theoretically utilize. Now, the first one is the one that I'm going to recommend that you build, and that is the Blast Charm. It has attack and ultimate power, does a fantastic amount of work for this hero, not only because he utilizes his own attack to buff the hero behind him, but his ultimate is also a good source of damage output. Now, the other considerations that you can look at are Sorcery Charms, not a huge fan of, but you can, And interestingly, Swift Charms. Swift Charms are haste and attack speed. You may be wondering, why would he do this? Effectively, haste allows him to cycle his shielding buff, or like, yeah, his shielding buff, that's the right way of saying this, to the hero behind him. And that is actually worthwhile. That is genuinely something that we may need. And you'll have noticed this if you've played the game for a long time. Mystic Hugin, and we'll come on to Hugin in a bit, is always the go-to. However, there has been scenarios in the past where you have to have Swift Hugin because the additional like 0.00 whatever it gives you in terms of readiness on his ultimate is vital. And it is the exact same with Gunnar. That could be the make or break between doing and not doing a Viperian stage, for example. So keep in the back of your mind, once again, he is a kind of like set hungry hero, but I would opt for the Blast Charms first and foremost. Okay, lastly, look at Theodore. Theodore has always been Insight Charms, but once again, when you are plush, or flush, I should say, sorry, with resources, it may be worthwhile picking up the Balance Charm because an attack set may be really, really important on this hero. There have been AFK stages that are Iron, Theodore, Neru, Faramore, and Saida, for example, that don't leverage Valara because they need all of the other heroes to do the controlling element. And they require on those like 1 second or even 0 second timeout wins. And for that reason, you may end up having to pick up some of these attack sets down the line. But yes, just calling that out for you. Okay, that's tanks done. Like I said, pretty easy. You do have Tree, but he's fallen out of favor so much that I'm not going to look at him. Now, the 3 remaining are Support, Ranger, and Mage. So we'll go to Support next. This is arguably the deepest and hardest choices. Now, support heroes are very vast and wide. In Season 6, we are utilizing Valara, Celise, Hugin, like Neru, Rowan, now Contus, for example, Twins. There are many, many different support heroes that we are leveraging. I am going to focus on just 3 or 4 to begin with. And the reason for that is I would prioritize these over the others. The ones that I would prioritize are, first and foremost, Valara and Hugin. Valara is a really, really potent hero in Phase 3. And the charms that you're going to want to build on her primarily are Blast Charms and then Sorcery. We have always mixed and matched between needing Sorcery and then needing Blast for different stages. The reason that I would opt for Blast first and foremost is it's just safer. It's not only an attack set that is benefiting your artifact, but it is also something that we know that you are going to be leveraging. So day 1, when you get to the support piece, I would look at Valara. Now, Hugin once again is a tri-set hero. He needs Mystic, Blast, and occasionally, and very rarely, Swift. I would opt for Mystic. And yes, you may be thinking, well, why isn't it the same logic pathway for Valara? Why would you not go for Sorcery over Blast if you're going for Mystic over Blast for Hugin? The reason for this is Hugin is a hero that needs to get to his ultimate to work. He needs to get to his ultimate extremely quickly for Viperian stages, for example. And Valara doesn't have that issue. Hugin does, therefore you should prioritize the Mystic Charms before you build any other set on him. Now, looking at the other examples that I gave you, Celise is really straightforward. You just want Arcane Charms on Celise. That is at least what testing has revealed, and I'm in agreement with other players that have said Arcane is the best for her. I think that's definitely the right choice. The next one is Twins. Twins are utilized occasionally in an AFK stage manner, same as Contus, who we'll come onto in a second. And for Twins, I would opt for the Sorcery Charms. Not only are they best for Dream Realm, but, well, most of the time they're best for Dream Realm. Hello, Eagle. How are you doing? But yeah, I think that Sorcery is just the go-to from an AFK stage perspective. Now, Contus, being a new hero, this could be drastically incorrect, but I think it is correct. It's Arcane. Arcane is just a really good set of charms for this hero. And right now, I think that they are the optimal pick for her. From an AFK stage perspective, at least. I don't really know from a Dream Realm or a PvP perspective. Now, there are other supports that you can look at, like I've said. We're not going to go into too much detail with them now, But what I would say is if you are, once again, flush with resource, if you're going to look to build something like Niru, in the past, Niru has utilized Eagle Charms for HP and ultimate power. It may be this time that you want to do the same, but just keep in the back of your mind that Reaper Charms may also be an option. Okay, without further ado, we are going to move to the Rangers. Danger, Ranger, Manger, Granger. So here we go. This is a really straightforward piece. There are a grand total of 2 Ranger heroes that I'm going to talk about. The first one is Mr. Sylvan, and the second one is going to be Mrs. Kulu. In the case of Sylvan, there is only realistically one option that is working, and it's working extremely well, and that is Gale Charms. Gale seem to be extremely strong for this hero. Not only does he benefit from attack speed, but he benefits from attack, as does our artifact. So Gale is just an instant lock on Sylvan. Now, the next hero is Kulu. Kulu is once again a hero that is set hungry. In the past, we have built sorcery, we have built arcane, we have built acute, and I have even seen the use of things like cheetah before. I personally would go with one of 2 sets initially on her. I would go with either acute or arcane. The reason why I would actually probably go with arcane over acute is acute has haste and attack on it. And haste can sometimes mess up Kulu timers. Kulu timers are really strange with her her bomb bounce. I was going to say bounce bomb. Therefore, if you want to play it safe, I would go with arcane first, and then when you are once again flush with ranger resources, which will be very quickly given there's only 2 heroes, then go ahead and pick up acute, followed by sorcery. Okay, cool. And the last one is going to be the Mages. Once again, not a huge amount of depth in the mage pool. We realistically only need to look at Mahira. We will give an honorable mention to Gala, and I will also give an honorable mention to Siren. Now, the reason why Mahira is the mainstay is she is a, once again using the terminology, mainstay in the Sylvan team. She is very much utilized more than any other mage hero. And like normal, the Mystic Charms are very good on Mahira. Now, something that the VN servers uncovered, and we noticed this on Pioneer, is that Mystic Charms aren't always your friend, and you will sometimes have to unequip Mystic Charms. Therefore, there is I guess an ounce of trepidation in the back of my mind that maybe picking up Arcane Charms, given we really don't have that many mage options, could be a worthwhile endeavor, because sometimes you won't want to utilize Mystic. So maybe think about being a bit different and picking up Arcane Charms before you pick up Mystic. It would be a risk, and I don't recommend it. But if you wanted to be very individual from an AFK stage perspective, you could prioritize Arcane over Mystic. What am I personally going to do? I will probably just play it safe and pick up Mystic. But there is some part of my brain saying, go for Arcane, Trimmer, go for Arcane. So maybe you should do it too. Okay. Now, the next hero is going to be Siren that I want to look at. Siren, as you saw in my team's recommendations yesterday, is somebody that is seeing use in the Lightbearer formation. Now, I would pick up the Destructive Charms, but I wouldn't fault you if you wanted to pick up the Acute Charm. The reason why is Acute is both haste and attack. Haste is really good for Siren because it allows him to cycle quicker. But attack is obviously beneficial for our artifact, whereas the Destructive Charm is just good for damage checks. But honestly, damage checks aren't something that we struggle with straight away. So once again, it's kind of like player's choice. I would opt for either Acute or Destructive, but I'll leave it up to you to select. And last but not least, I said Gala. Now, Gala was a mainstay in Phase 1, and there was some, I guess, optimism that she would return with the level 30 of Blazeburn. Now, if you're not familiar with what I mean by that, is Blazeburn artifact at level 30 needs only 3 ultimates to trigger, not 4. Therefore, Gala should theoretically be able to do more with that situation happening around her. From a charm perspective, it's really straightforward with her. I would just go with the Blast Charm. That is all you have to do. Done, signed, sealed, whatever. Okay, cool. Now, just to round this out, what I want to do is quickly take a look at Dura's trial itself. Now, the first day that it is open will be a Rogue Ranger day. Therefore, the first heroes that you should craft from a Rogue and Ranger perspective are Saida, if you have her, and Sylvan, if you have him. If you don't have those heroes, then you can look at someone else that you are utilizing more than your other heroes, for example. And I'm going to leave that to you to try and figure out, because I don't know your account, I don't know what your utilization looks like. But if you own Saida and you own Sylvan, those will be your go-tos. Now, a question that I do get quite often in my DMs as we head into Phase 3 is, Dreamer, when do I use my Dura's tokens? These are the tokens that you have looted, or yet to loot, I should say, from the Primal Lord. Some of you have 10 of these, some of you have cheesed the game mechanics and have 20 saved up. If you've got 20, I think that you don't need to listen to this portion of the video because I think you can sweep whatever you want to sweep and you'll work out completely fine. If you have 10, I think that your strategy, and by the way, I'm being tongue-in-cheek, you probably can follow the same thing if you have 20. What I would say is the most beneficial day will be the Warrior Support Day, which is the second day after Mythic Charms have been released. So day 1 is Rogue Ranger. Day 2 is Warrior Support, and Day 3 is Mage Tank. Once those 3 days have gone, obviously we start to cycle back through just the other way around. But on those initial 3 days, where should you be sweeping with your additional tokens? It's likely that I would opt for something like a 2-6-2 formation. If I had to put a number and you've got, like, you know, the firstborn of my life and you're saying, Dreamer, you've got to make an option right now, quickly. I would do 2-6-2. That's the way that I would do my 10 tokens. And if you are to duplicate that into 20, that is what, 4-12-4? Something like that. And the reason that I would do that, just off the top of my mind thinking about this, is the depth of the heroes that you are needing to craft for. On the Rogue Ranger Day, as we've spoken about, your secondary options are Faramore and Kulu. Your third options are realistically Iron or Athalia, and then nobody on the Ranger side. So there's really no depth in additional sweeping. On the Warrior Support side, there's such a long list of support heroes. And yes, there aren't that many good warrior heroes. You've got Baelren and you've got Brutus. But the question that you need to ask yourself is, can I afford to wait until day 5 of the Mythic Charm release schedule, which would be day 6 of Phase 3, to eventually get to the support warrior sweep? And the answer is probably no. So I would recommend sweeping the warrior support day. I was going to say tree. I think that's the completely wrong way of saying that. But the day. And yeah, that's the 2-6-2. And then the final 2 would obviously be Mage Tank. Once again, not a huge amount of depth, but you want to make sure that you're building Auna. You want to make sure that you're building Gunner, and then third Theodore. And those are 3 heroes that I would prioritize building. So once again, can you afford to wait till day 8 of Phase 3? I doubt it. So you'll want to utilize some sweeps on the Mage Tank day. Keep in mind, your season book will also give you a whack load of Charm Dust, and it's likely that by day 4 you will be in Apex stages if you are a Sweaty Betty and you play this game in abundance. You've got all the heroes built and you're an avid AFK stage pusher. Day 4 is where you will end up in Apex, so you'll start to accumulate from the quest book additional mythic resource anyway. Therefore, 2-6-2, just to round it out. 2-6-2 is what I personally am going to do. Maybe I'll change it depending on my luck out of the gold store, but yeah, that's where I am. Okay, without further ado, I'll stop rambling. That is today's video. If you've got any questions for me, you let me know. And otherwise, I will see you in Phase 3.